What's going on, internets? It is Friday, which means that I comment on your guys' comments. And if you watched Tuesday's video, you may notice that I am talking just fine, so why did I not have a video yesterday? On Tuesday, I mentioned that I was going to the dentist and I was gonna get so much work done that on Thursday, I didn't know if I'd have a video or not. Well, instead of that happening, I ended up going to the dentist 4 times in 2 days. And all that has happened in those 4 visits is that they have checked my teeth out with x-rays and all that good stuff, and then they cleaned them. The upside, we get a video today. The downside, sooner or later, I need to get 3 root canals. I have learned my lesson, take care of your teeth. And really quick before we get into the news, I'm pretty excited about this. Today at twitch.tv/geeksundergrace, the podcast team will be live. I don't know for how long, at least an hour, answering your guys' questions. So come, ask us whatever you guys want. The podcast will be posted on Wednesday. We're pretty stoked about it. And that's happening at 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time today, Friday. So we do only have the 1 video from Tuesday. We talked about the Daily Show, but I also asked you guys, what is something good you have seen other Christians do? Just something kind of uplift me, and you guys did great with that. So first off, let's start with James Miller, who says they don't believe that the Daily Show is really in the wrong because it is comedy, and comedy is supposed to make light of things. Which I get what you're trying to say. You know, people say that comedy shouldn't have any bounds, but I definitely have to argue with you when you say they weren't dismissing the value of life, because they made the value of life a joke. And if they want to defend themselves with it was just comedy, guys, get over it, that's fine. But say it was like a racist joke is still racist. And then next up we have a comment from Brave Grey Knight. So they haven't seen a lot of Christians do something very noteworthy as far as the question of the day goes, but they did say that I inspire them, and that made me feel very warm inside. It's really real, commented on teeth and how much they suck, and I totally agree. At the end of the day, I totally did it to myself, but man, teeth are so expensive. Hayden Cockrell, I love you. Thank you. And I'm really sorry that I'm kind of blowing through these. I'm really bad at just taking compliments. And the Disciple of Jesus has a comment that just really strikes me. I really like this, and so I want to tell everyone about it. And that is that his thing, the coolest thing he's seen a Christian do is they actually, in Kenya, stopped someone else from being stoned and saving their life. I just hope that I would have that audacity and courage to step in front of someone throwing stones at someone else and take hits so that they could get away. That is very cool. I'm not going on to make a kid Icarus at this point. I'm just naming off cool things that Christians have done, and I'm totally okay with that. Sometimes we need to celebrate what God has done in our lives. And make a kid Icarus says they did something they thought was just completely unforgivable, and they had 700 to 800 people take part in forgiving those sins. Obviously not washing away those sins, forgiving them, that's Jesus's job. But, you know, saying, yeah, I forgive you for what you have done to me. Having 700, 800 people do that, that's got to be really powerful to experience. And then I also love the comment from Jinx, which is an incredibly long comment. If you want to go check it out, you can see it on Tuesday's video. But basically, while they were waiting for a car to get repaired, they found out that this person that worked at the repair shop, her sister, had a sick baby, like an incredibly sick baby. Lungs were collapsed and all that kind of stuff. Being a church group, they got together and they prayed. They came back to get the car, and when they came back, they found out that the baby had been completely healed. And I know that God doesn't always answer our prayers the way we want him to, but this is an instance where he did, and that's always really cool to see. And then final comment, this is going back to the Daily Show stuff, talking about, I said we need to have a conversation on the value of life, what's wrong and what's right, because the legality of abortion really isn't affecting whether or not people get abortions, statistically anyways. And so we have this comment from K87 Jury, who apparently seems to be pro-choice, and they said that conversation should also include access to birth control, sexual education, and a woman's right to her body, which, yes, I totally think is part of the conversation. Honestly, I think upping our sexual education would be a very huge thing. I know for me, sexual education was more just kind of trying to get me in fear of sex. I remember basically, if you have sex, you will have babies and protection will not work. And I know that in public schools, you can't really get all too spiritual by any means, but could you imagine if the conversation about sexual education was how important it is, what it does to you psychologically? I mean, if we can get people back into the mindset that sex is a sacred thing, I think if we can have that conversation without shaming people or scaring them, I think that we could have a much higher regard for it. And then, you know, as far as rights for a woman to her body, it's definitely another conversation we should have. And then whatever answer we go with, maybe we need to ask ourselves, just because we can, should we? I mean, there are a lot of things that are legal and that you have a right to do that are terrible for you. And this specifically, it hurts someone else. It ends a life that they could have lived. So, totally, Jury. Definitely a conversation. Thank you guys so much for watching. Remember that we have the podcast tonight at 6 o'clock my time, 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Can't wait. You guys can come ask the team all sorts of different questions. We'd love to answer them. Love you guys so much. God bless.